Alright, CNT125, Chapter 8. Let's look at a subnet Class B network problem. Again, remember, all zeros in the host portion is network number, all ones in the host portion is broadcast. Combination ones and zeros in the host portion is a usable IP. And those are the ones we want, so we're going to make a chart that isolates out network number, usable, and broadcast. So we know these numbers that we can actually assign to routers, switches, workstations, servers, printers, IP phones, access points, etc. Alright, so Class B. We're given a Class B network. 180.40.00 is the network ID. Default subnet mask 255.255.00. Here is the subnet mask in binary form. We have determined that we need to borrow 5 bits for subnets. Okay, so maybe they need 15, 20, or I should say 25, 30 subnets. So we need to borrow 5 bits to get the job done. So 5 bits borrowed. 2 to the 5 is going to give me 32 subnets. What I'm going to have left is, well, I might need to write it out to be sure. There's my 5 bits borrowed. When I do that, I'm left with 11 bits. So 2 to the 11 is going to give me 2048 addresses per subnet, of which 2046 are usable. I write out my subnet mask. 255.255, this octet right here, I would convert to decimal. This ends up being 248 and then .0. Okay, so 255.255.248 for this octet, .0. I count up my bits, 8 plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I end up with 21 bits. 21 bits for my CIDR notation. Okay, so there is my basics figured out. How many bits I'm going to borrow, how many bits are going to be left, alter my subnet mask, so now my devices actually know my plan of action. So I'm going to stop for a second and take a look. Okay, there's my 255.255.248. If I zero in on this last bit right here that I borrowed, the interesting bit, I find out that it is the, 128, 64, 32, 16, 8. This is the 8 location, 8 place value, if you will. So I now know my subnets are going to go up by a value of 8. Okay. So now when I start making my chart, I can go 0, 8, 16, 24, etc. And that'll get me my subnets going up by a factor of 8. So I start off, I make my chart, far left column here, I start putting my subnet numbers in. 0, 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48, 56, and this continues on and on and on. Because I'm going to have 32 subnets. This would actually be 32 rows deep if I wrote them all. I'm just writing the first couple because if we get it started, we can continue if we need to. Alright. And before I go any further, you notice I'm just focusing on this octet right now. This interesting octet. The octet where stuff is happening. We will worry about tagging this last one on here in a minute. So, if this starts at 0 and this one starts at 8, this one has to end at 7. So I would do that. I would come right over here and say, okay, this started at 0, ends at 7, this starts at 8, ends at 15, this starts at 16, ends at 23, this starts at 24, and so forth. Okay, so now I have my subnet number and my broadcast addresses, but it's for just this octet. So what I want to do before I go any further is, okay, let's tag on this host octet out here. Let's tag on the host octet so we don't lose track of them. So what I'll do is I will tag that on right here. Well, if I use my rule, the network number or subnet number is going to be all zeros in the host portion. So if I take this host portion out here and just indicate it as 0, that is going to be the network number. 0, 0, 0. Okay, so I have 0 here for the first one, 0 in the host portion, so 0.0. The next one is 8 in this portion here, so 8.0 in the host portion. 8, 0. 16, 0, 24, 0, 32, 0. I'm taking the host portion, in this case the host octet, making it all zeros. And that will be the subnet or network number for that subnet. Alright, I want to do the same thing over here on the broadcast side. So to do that, I'm going to make the host portion all ones. All ones in the host portion is a broadcast address. So in this case, if I take this host portion, make it all ones, it's going to be 255. So that one's kind of easy peasy. I just tag on this fourth octet 255.255.255.255 and so forth. And that'll give me my broadcast addresses in that last column. Alright, now I want to do the usables. The usables can be a little trickier, but I'm going to still follow the same rule. One more, one less. So think of this almost like an odometer. 0, 0, 0 in my car. When I drive a mile, it's going to go 0, 1. I drive another mile, it's going to go 0, 2. Drive another mile, it's 0, 3. So to increase by 1 for the usables, it'll be 0.1. That far right column is increased by 1. That's one more. 8.1, 16.1, 24.1. The host portion is incremented just 1 to the first usable. Over here, if I have 7.255, if that was the odometer in my car, if I drive backwards a mile, I know that's crazy, don't do it. But if I were to drive backwards a mile, my odometer would go down by 1, but it would be over here in this far column. So it would be 7.254. Right here, 15.254. Okay, 23.254, driving backwards a mile. Again, don't do it, just making fun. And now I have my usables. 0.1 the whole way up to 7.254 gives me my usable IP address range. And now I have my network numbers or subnet numbers here on the left, usables in the middle, broadcasts on the right. If I were to take this same problem, plug it into a subnet calculator, an app to do this for me, you'll notice we're going to get the exact same thing. 180.40.0.0, 180.40.8.0, 16.0, 24.0. We just focused in on these two octets right here. Right here in the middle, 0, 1, 8, 1, 16, 1, 24, 1, 32, 1, so forth. We were just focusing in on those last two octets. The calculator's plugging in all 4 octets for you so you can see a IP address that is 180.40.8.2 is in this range, so it would belong to this subnet over here. Okay, so there's a subnet B, subnet class B network. I'm doing the exact same thing. It's just I do the process, then I tag on the 4th octet, tag on the 4th octet, one more, one less, remembering to do it in the far right column to get the job done. Okay, that's it. I'll come back in the next podcast and do a class A.